What up, what up, what up? Hey, everybody, hope you're doing well. Hey, I just want to let you know, I know everybody can't always support and donate to the podcast, but hey, if you can do a one-time donation, I put up a Buy Me a Coffee link in this description of the podcast. So if you go to the description of the podcast, it'll be at the bottom, and you can just go to that link, and you can buy me a cup of coffee, or two if you want. And that would just help support the show, and I can wake up a little bit more and bring you more info. So thanks for listening to the podcast. If you can donate, that would be much appreciated. And let's get on to the show. What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Lockdown Universe, some of the bizarre, peculiar, and unheard of stories of UFO, legend, and paranormal lore. Welcome back, welcome back. Happy to be back. Hopefully you guys are doing excellent, taking care of yourselves. Yes, we're doing an audio-only podcast today. I have a very interesting topic, and it's something that I just caught on Gaia's Cosmic Disclosure, one of the brand new episodes with Randy Kramer, who has extensive experience with the reptilians and all of the aliens in the Galactic Federation. But one of the most interesting things was the dominance with which the Draconian reptilians have imposed on our humanity. And one of the really interesting things that they imposed on humanity was the corporate structure. You see, when it comes to reptilians, their whole methodology is domination. And we'll talk about their weaponry too, and how we were able to overcome some of their weaponry. The entire reptilian brain is all about dominance at any level. It's not about stealth so much as it is brute force. And this is something that comes up a lot with Randy Kramer's testimony in dealing with them on a military level and also on a societal level. So one of the things the Draconians brought into our life, unfortunately, was the corporate lifestyle. So that 9 to 5 that you hate, yeah, you can thank the Draconian reptilians for that. I think that alone is enough for us to hate them. So, yeah, I don't like the reptilians, man. Not my favorite. But the reason that they've imposed that is because that's what they know, and that's how they know to control things. See, the corporate structure is very militaristic in a lot of ways, right? You have to show up. You have to be on time. You don't have a lot of flexibility. You have to do exactly what your boss says, otherwise you get fired. You have to hit goals. You know, there's not a lot of room for creativity in the corporate world. You show up, you become a robot. You maybe make friends with your boss, and if you're lucky, you get to keep your job. And if you do a good enough job and bust your ass and do over 80 hours a week, maybe we'll let you keep your job, and we'll toss you a couple extra shekels. But he stated that, you know, in the corporate world of the reptilians' home planet, literally they would stab people in the back if they didn't do a good enough job. I thought that was interesting because, you know, we utilize the phrase stab someone in the back all the time here on Earth, but apparently that's what they actually do on the reptilian homeworld in the Draconian star system, especially at a management level. So let's say you're a manager and you're trying to hit all of your goals for the quarter, and you don't do it well enough, and there's a bigger, badder, tougher manager out there, and he's like, you know what, stab this dude in the back, right in the corporate room, right in our meeting room, and I'm going to take over his position. That's really the blunt force of the reptilians. That's how literal the blunt force is in their corporate structure. Now, let's extrapolate that a little bit. Let's talk about their weaponry. So when it comes to weapons, the reptilians are a formidable force. However, that being said, no matter how dominant they are in the field, they're much like the bigger football team playing a smaller football team. They try to do everything by running everyone over. No matter what they do, It's all about blunt force. And as we know, it's not always those who are the biggest on the football field that succeed in life. It's typically the ones who get beat up. And they figure out a way to make life happen around these big bullies. We see that on Earth, right? Look at Bill Gates. I bet you he wasn't a linebacker, but he sure made himself one of the most successful people on the planet. You know, I mean, you do have guys like The Rock that are humongous dudes that do make it big on the big stage, but he has personality. He's not all about, if it was all blunt force and I'm going to dominate, people wouldn't, resonate with that. With one exception, Trump. So, but nonetheless, so the modus operandi, their MO. It's how they operate. So what humanity did, according to Randy Kramer, is we found ways around these brute force attacks. Now, brute force doesn't have to be big objects slamming into walls or slamming into earth or slamming into our bases or slamming into our ships, naval or in the air. They can be smaller items, such as a line of code, possibly, that is a brute force attack. We even have brute force attack codes for computer hackers, right? They do a DDoS attack, and that will shut down a website. Basically, it's just a million people trying to access a website at one time, and it overloads the system and shuts it down. So, but there's ways around that too. There's ways around that. And so not just that line of code, but there's ways around brute force applications. For example, let's say back in the Stone Ages, if you had a military operation going on where you're inside of a castle and the forces outside of the castle wanted in, they would typically use a brute force attack on your castle door. So they would take a humongous log and slam it into your door. That's how they would get in, right? Because your door is typically made of wood. And so if you were smart, you would take up arrows up above and take the high ground and shoot them down upon those who were coming in, or you would shoot, fireballs in their way. You'd gather up some fiery objects on the end of your arrow and you'd shoot it down. Maybe hit the guys, or maybe hit the ground in front of them, or maybe even hit the log so that they can't hold it anymore. Eventually we figured out our own way, right? We made the drawbridge so that they can't use those brute force weapons. So there's lots of ways to work around a brute force type of mentality. However, it seems as though many of us are stuck in this 9-to-5 type of mentality. Now, isn't it interesting that the reptilians are the ones that feed upon this loose energy? They feed upon our pain, our suffering. Well, guess what? You want more pain, more suffering? Boom. We're going to make a 9-to-5 for you. You wake up, you work your ass off all freaking day, and then you're pissed off, you're suffering, you're tired, you're moaning and groaning, you're whining, complaining. We love it. Keep going. Keep doing it. Don't worry. Tomorrow's going to be better. Oh, and we'll give you the weekend. We'll give you the weekend, and you can go watch football and have more emotional trauma that we can suck up. But I don't want to make it all about the loose energy, but it is kind of a fascinating counterpoint that they are the ones that do feed off of this loose energy, and they created the thing that we hate, the 9-to-5 position. Now, we can sit here and complain all we want, right? And we can say, well, you know what? We're going to make our own job. We're going to become successful, and we're going to become entrepreneurs. That's great. You can do it. And you might end up being successful and happy. Some people do that. Some people open businesses and they fail and they have to go back to work. I've seen that happen plenty of times. Not just in people that I know, but externally, companies that I'm aware of. I do know a lot of people who did start their own businesses and did fail. Had to go back to a 9-to-5. And talk about turmoil. Talk about a lot of loose energy there. Talk about a lot of negativity. So there's always, in the corporate world that they created, there's always this movement towards center, this gravity that's spiraling around a 9-to-5 because there's security. you can make money and you can have secure money. Or you can go out and do something else, maybe sales, maybe maybe become an artist, a musician, whatever the case is. The problem there is that you have to become successful, and there's only so much room, right? So it becomes a bigger challenge than what most people think. So that's an interesting aspect. I just wanted to bring that up. I thought it was a fascinating topic that Randy Kramer brought up, because I think it's just one of those topics that I've never heard of. I've never once heard of the reptilians initiating some sort of 9 to 5. I mean, we all know that they dominate the planet in many ways, but Jesus, to know that they created the corporate structure, the 9 to 5, it almost makes you yearn for going back and living in the medieval ages, or a lot of people, women and men, are watching this Outlander show. And I got made to watch it, but eventually I liked it, and it does make you kind of yearn for like the 1700s, 1800s. Although we didn't have medicine, we did have a bit more freedom. Yes, you were probably poor, but you had more freedom to be in nature. You had more freedom to do things at your own pace. You didn't have a punch-in card, did you? You didn't have, a building to go into. You might have had to do some rough work, but at least you're outside. What else can we say about this mentality? Well, it's interesting that the reptilians take it to such a violent end, right? They take it to this end that, hey, we'll stab them in the back, literally, physically. Versus, here on Earth, we haven't always done that. Typically, you're not going to stab somebody in the back, although there are some mischievous criminals out there that probably have done that to advance themselves in the corporate world. It seems as though humanity, or humans, might have a bit more humanity than these Draco reptilians. It's as much as we downgrade ourselves and talk down upon humanity, it seems as though we may have a bit more compassion and understanding, and a turn towards good than we do a turn towards bad. And I think that one of the things that Corey Good, Randy Kramer, Emery Smith, a lot of other whistleblowers have talked about is that we have to move towards a 51% of our energy being to fulfill towards others, to fulfill our promise to helping others. And a lot of times we don't do that, right? We're so focused almost all day on just staying alive. Whether it's going to work, taking care of your kids, paying your bills, taking care of your dogs, making food, just surviving takes up a vast majority of your day, doesn't it? At least in my experience, it has. And then even the weekends take up so much of your time. So how are you able to get to that 51%? You could do it in small ways. The smaller can be the better, or the bigger. For example, take a small step towards it. Even today, send a nice text message to somebody. Hey, I've been thinking about you. I just wanted to check in on you. I'll tell you, there's one to two people in this world that do that for me, and it makes a humongous difference in my life, knowing that somebody actually sent a text message. Hell, I don't know, they could send 500 to 200 of those text messages at the same time to people and just say, hey, how you doing? And that makes a humongous difference, or they'll send a text message just saying, hey, you're awesome. Just want you to know that. It's really cool to see somebody do that. It doesn't have to be a religious thing. It could just be a friendly thing. Just, hey man, you're doing awesome. You're doing a good job. Or I just wanted to check in on you. You doing okay? That's all you have to say. And then that 51% becomes a lot easier to achieve, because you can have a nice conversation with people. Even at work, you have to do your work, but you can you can be of service. It's 51% to 49% of service. So if you can be of service, you don't have to always help people and work, take your time to assist them. You can use your intelligence to guide them, to help them, so that they can take their time to learn through your maybe few sentences. Maybe you just give them a little piece of information and they take that information and they run with it. And then that gives them the capability to complete whatever task that they wanted you to show them, but they can do it themselves. That's the beauty. So think about that as you move forward throughout your day. If you're going to work and you're like, oh God, I got to see this person, I got to see this person again. If you can give them one piece or two small sentences to give them information on how to complete something more efficiently, you already took a humongous step towards that 51% and helping us evolve spiritually against this structure that's been put in place. And we do have to fight against it, because to get back to humanity, to get back to helping people, to get back to taking care of each other, it might sound almost kind of like a communistic or socialistic kind of mentality, going away from like that capitalism. But we also have to have a nice balance. We have to take care of each other. It can't just always be me, 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 me. I got to take care of me. Because if we do that, we fall right into the Reptilians' trap. Right into the Rockefellers' trap, right into Soros' trap, and everybody else's trap. And it'll be a continuous, vicious reincarnation circle. So think about how you can change it. How can we change it? Small step by small step, baby step by baby step, towards an ultimate goal. Yes, you can help people out, but what's the ultimate goal? Is the ultimate goal for us to have a utopia here on Earth? Then we got to think about how can we achieve that? What little pieces of information can we offer to help our brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers get there? So I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I love this topic. I think it's something that we can talk a lot about, and it's something that we can definitely expand upon and continue to discuss. Now that it's kind of brand new information, it's really going to be in my head all day today, and I might want to do another one. But anyway, hope you guys are taking care of yourselves. Keep that white positive light around you. Bring it to others. Keep that 51% of service to others in mind. You have to take care of yourself as well, so follow through on your hobbies and your goals and your dreams. Those will help you ascend, because when you feel fulfilled, you'll be able to fulfill others. And, as always, continue to question the universe around you, and please like, follow, and subscribe. I love you guys. Take care and have a great day. Lockdown Universe out.